first lesson is from chapter 45 of the book of Genesis. We've been following the story of Joseph, in the book of Genesis. And Joseph, as we know, was sold into slavery, went to Egypt, and because he could interpret dreams, the Lord gave him that gift. He interpreted the dream of the butler and the baker. And then the butler remembered him to Pharaoh when Pharaoh had the dreams that he had, and Joseph was brought to Pharaoh, interpreted the dreams concerning the 7 years of plenty and the 7 years of famine. And Pharaoh put Joseph in charge. When Joseph's family began to suffer because of the famine in their country, they came down to buy because they heard there was food in Egypt. They didn't recognize Joseph. They had no idea who he was, but he knew who they were. So he wanted to be with his younger brother Benjamin. And so when they first came down, the brothers were told, "I believe you're spies. Come back with Benjamin so I'll know you're telling the truth." And they kept Simeon. He kept Simeon there. And then they come back the second time with Benjamin. And they begin to try to understand why they are now being held captive and Benjamin is going to be kept there. The son Judah, the brother Judah, gave a plea to Joseph, "Please don't keep Benjamin here. It'll kill my father. Keep me," Judah said. And so after that plea from Judah, the following story takes place. Joseph could not restrain himself before all that were standing by him, and he cried out, "Cause everyone to go out from me." And there stood not any with him while Joseph made himself known to his brethren. And he gave forth with his voice a weeping, and all the Egyptians heard the crying, and even the house of Pharaoh heard. Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Does my father yet live?" His brothers couldn't answer him. They were so astounded before him. Joseph said to his brothers, "Come near to me." And they came near. He said, "I'm Joseph, your brother, who you sold into Egypt. Now do not be grieved, neither let it become angry in your eyes that you sent me here, for God did send me here before you to make you to live. For these 2 years of famine are in the midst of the land, and yet there are 5 more years wherein there will be no plowing and no harvest. And God sent me before you to put you here, that a remains may live in the land, and that you may live for a great escape." So he spoke to them and told them to go back, take back carts, take back plenty of food, wagons, and bring the rest of the family down to Egypt for the rest of the famine, that he would take care of them. Bring down his father. Of course, he wanted to see him. So he sent away his brethren, and they departed, and he said, "Do not fight along the way." So they went up out of Egypt, and they came to the land of Canaan, to Jacob, their father. And they told him, saying, "Joseph is still alive, and he's ruler over the whole land of Egypt." And Jacob's heart failed, because he did not believe them. But they spoke to him all the words that Joseph had said, which he had already spoken to them. And then Jacob saw the carts which Joseph had sent to carry him and the family. And the spirit of Jacob, their father, revived. And then Israel, or Jacob, said, "It is much. Joseph, my son, is yet alive. I will go to see him before I die." What a dramatic story. How powerful. How powerful for Joseph's brothers to come down having no idea who they were going to be with, what they were going to see, how they would be treated. They just wanted to buy some food for their families. They had had a long time to think about what it was that they had done to their brother Joseph. And so when they first got there, and Joseph said they're spies, and they told them the details about their father being back home and their youngest brother being home and one of their brothers being no more, speaking about himself, Joseph, he listened. And then they talked among themselves and sort of argued and fought a little bit about why they were there and why they were being accused of being spies. And Joseph listened. They didn't know it was him. But they began to show that they thought, maybe we're being accused of this bad thing because of the bad thing we did to our brother Joseph. They showed that they did something wrong, really wrong, and now they wish they hadn't. Now, did they wish they hadn't just because they're in trouble now and somehow they think God's punishing them for what they did wrong? Or did they really think, it was just a wrong thing to do? It's too bad if we did that. It was just wrong. But they went back home again, and they were told, don't bother coming back down unless you bring your brother Benjamin, your youngest brother. I showed the picture last week of Benjamin looking in his sack where all the grain was, and in it was the silver cup. So he did come down, and he got fed, they all got fed, and they got sent back home again, and Joseph played a trick on them. He said, somebody stole my silver cup. Whoever stole it, I'm going to make him my slave. He had actually put the cup in Benjamin's bag. And so all the brothers are there. We talked about that last week, that Joseph listened to his brothers pleading, and they again said, we're in big trouble because of what we did to our brother Joseph. And they said at that point he went out and he cried. He came back in again and continued talking to them and said, you can all go. Just want to leave Benjamin here. Didn't have an expectation that his father could come back down or that he was going to bring everybody down. He just wanted to have his youngest brother with him, and the rest could go home. And then Judah gives his heartfelt plea that he couldn't possibly return home without taking Benjamin. It would kill their father. He wasn't willing to have that happen. So this picture depicting Joseph. And as you can see, I mentioned last week, here it's showing Benjamin as a young lad, but he wasn't a young boy. When he came down with the rest of his brothers later on in the chapters in Genesis, it talks about his 4 children, and I believe he had some grandchildren too. So he was not a young lad. All of these men were much older than Joseph and Benjamin. But Benjamin wasn't some preteen or teenager. So Joseph's revealing himself to his brothers. He weeps. He cries. They're just astounded. They're shocked. They thought he had died years ago, and they felt really guilty and bad about it. Some of them apparently did. And Joseph heard them saying that. So imagine doing something so bad and then realizing, wow, it wasn't as bad as I thought. That's a nice thing. But it was pretty bad anyway. So when we make big mistakes, the Lord's always ready to forgive us. And this story is just a great story of forgiveness on the part of Joseph. He could have had them all killed because he was ruler. He could have sent them all back and never told them who he was and just kept Benjamin. But because his heart went out to Judah and to his family, he did end up revealing himself to them, and they were really afraid. Later on in this story of Joseph and his brothers, after their father comes to visit with them, and he begins to live with them all down in Egypt. This is a picture showing Joseph meeting his father Jacob. After Jacob, or Israel, did die, then the brothers thought, okay, we've only been kept alive by Joseph because our father's alive. And now that he's dead, we'll make up a story telling him that Jacob said, don't be mad at us. Don't be mad at us. Jacob never said that. They were so afraid. They were so afraid of what Joseph could do. And sometimes we're that way with the Lord. We think the Lord, somehow because we've done something so bad, he's just got to punish us. Just feel like somehow it's going to come back on us. And some people talk about, well, it's karma, or that's just the way the Lord works, or you must have done something really good when you were a kid, so good things happen. But if you didn't do stuff when you were good, when you were younger, bad things will happen. The Lord just doesn't operate that way. And Joseph is a good representation of that. He had every reason, just as a human being, to punish his brothers for what they had done. And he did none of it. He saved them alive, gave them a great place to live, brought down all of his whole family down with him, over 70 people, and they stayed alive. And even after their father died, he still treated them very nicely. It's a great, great way of thinking about the Lord. Looking at our own evils, our own mistakes, and always wanting to forgive us, not wanting us to suffer. The Lord doesn't want us to suffer. And if we've done things that have hurt other people, the Lord doesn't work in such a way that he wants to hurt us back the way we hurt somebody else. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that nice? Isn't that a great way to think about ourselves being forgiven? Because sometimes we look at other people and we think, well, I just can't forgive them for that. There's no way. No, that was so bad. That hurt me, or that hurt my family so badly, I'll never forgive them. The Lord asks us to, please, love one another as I have loved you. See about that example of what Joseph did for his brothers who had treated him so badly. And for us to look at other people that have treated us badly or done bad things, for us to think, I want the Lord to give me the heart so that I can forgive them the way the Lord forgives me. And we say that every time we say our prayer, don't we? Forgive us our debts as we also forgive our debtors. This is a beautiful story. It reminds us of the Lord's love for us. Should never forget that love. When things are going badly or we have done things badly, never forget that love. The Lord has the ability to forgive everything we've done, especially when we take that same forgiveness and extend it to the people around us who have done wrong things to us. Amen. Please join in.